Our bipartisan delegation travels to Mexico, Peru, and Chile to discuss the importance of enhancing security, combating transnational crime, advancing human rights, and further strengthening bilateral relationship. On the visit, according to Nancy Pelosi to Mexico, members seek to learn more about the Trans-Pacific Partnership Trade Agreement that will impact the people and economies of the region and the United States, migration, and specifically the issue of unaccompanied children will also be a focus in Mexico. Now, Nancy, this was May of 2016, before President Trump was even elected president, and you're making a statement saying that there are unaccompanied children as a major issue? Nancy continues by stating, "We come here as a bipartisan and large delegation to express our respects for the people of Mexico and the country of Mexico, to acknowledge our shared border and our shared values, and to learn more about how we can work together for the bright future for not only our two countries, but the entire hemisphere." So you see, ladies and gentlemen, they were already preparing if President Trump were to become president in 2017.
Nancy Pelosi hands out subpoenas like they're cookies. When Mark Meadows, Jim Jordan, and Devin, and all these people, when they went to Paul Ryan to get a subpoena because they found the same things that we're talking about, Paul would say, "Well, let's take it easy." It was impossible. You couldn't get a subpoena. She hands out subpoenas like they're cookies. The Democrats fight a dirtier fight. It's too bad.
Here with reaction, one of the people that the president just mentioned, Ohio Congressman and member of both the House Oversight and Judiciary Committee, Jim Jordan, joining us from Statuary Hall. Jim, good morning to you.
Good morning, Steve. Good to be with you.
Why didn't you hand out more cookies when you guys were in charge?
We should have subpoenaed a few more people. I agree with the president 100%. But the fact is, we are where we are. And, I mean, here's the bottom line. The president was falsely accused of collusion. Now, the question is, do you investigate the false accusation, or do you continue to investigate something Bob Mueller spent 22 months investigating and come back and said there was nothing there? Obviously, the Democrats have chosen the latter, and they're going to keep it, as the president said, they're going to keep subpoenaing people. They're going to keep doing these impeachment hearings, even though they won't officially call it that, like we have today in the Judiciary Committee. They're going to keep doing that, even though Bob Mueller spent 22 months, $30 million, 19 lawyers, most of them Democrats, 40 FBI agents, 500 subpoenas,
right,
or 500 witnesses and 2,800 subpoenas on an investigation. He concluded there was nothing there.
Congressman, when you go home to Ohio and you talk to the people, how often do they say, "Hey, what's going on with the collusion thing and the Mueller report and the president should be impeached," or do they ask you about other things? I'm just curious, in the list of priorities, where what the Democrats are doing is landing.
You know, the question I get all the time, and not just in the 4th District of Ohio, but when I'm traveling at the airport or somewhere, I get it all the time. When is someone going to jail? Because the American people know that what took place when the FBI, the upper echelon of the FBI, who had such a problem, as Bill Barr has said, when they took one party's opposition research document, dressed it all up, made it look like it was legitimate intelligence, took it to a secret court to get a warrant to go spy on President Trump's campaign.
Right.
They said, when is someone going to be held accountable? And that's the question I get from people all the time, and frankly from all over the country. That's what. Now, they also want us to address the crisis on the border. They love the fact that the economy is growing and all those other things, and they'd like for Democrats to actually focus on that instead of continuing their investigation. But they want us to do what Bill Barr and John Durham are doing, getting to the bottom of how this whole crazy thing started.
And you know what? I think that's exactly what the president was talking about with Sean Hannity last night. Listen to this soundbite, Congressman.
We're trying to find out whether or not they actually listened in on my calls. Imagine if it were the other way around and I spied on President Obama's campaign. Could you imagine what the repercussions would be? Or I spied on crooked Hillary's campaign. Can you imagine what the repercussions would be?
Congressman, can you imagine if they were listening in on the phone of a man who was running for president of the United States?
Remember what Bill Barr said about 10 weeks ago when he first testified in front of the United States Senate. He said 4 very important things. He said, first, there was a failure of leadership at the upper echelon of the FBI. We know that's the case. Comey, McCabe, Baker, Strzok, Page, we know that. Second, he said spying occurred. He said it twice. He said, third, there's a basis for my concern about the spying that took place. And then fourth, he used 2 terms that should scare every American. He used the term unauthorized surveillance and political surveillance. He is going to get to the bottom of this, and he's going to check out just exactly what the president indicated may have happened, and I think that's entirely appropriate. And frankly, remember this too. Emmett Flood sent a letter to the Attorney General of the United States, and he said this: if they can do this to a president of the United States, imagine what they can do to you and me. And that's the fundamental point here. So that's why this investigation that the Attorney General and John Durham are doing is so darn important.
And stay tuned for that and see what happens. All right, Congressman Jim Jordan. Sir, thank you very much.
You bet. Thank you.
Are you going to apologize like Cory Booker has called for?
Apologize for what?
Cory Booker's called for it.
Cory should apologize. He knows better. There's not a racist bone in my body.
There is Joe Biden, a stern response after he's taken heat from several Democratic rivals, including Senators Cory Booker and Kamala Harris. This developed quickly. With me now, Sochi Hinojosa, Communications Director for the DNC. How you doing? And welcome back. It's nice to see you.
Thanks so much for having me.
Where did this come from? It seemed to catch fire overnight.
It did, but I'm not going to get into the back and forth between candidates. That will be up for them to respond to. And frankly, you're going to see a lot of that on the debate stage next Wednesday and Thursday for the first debates in Miami. But I think that what's really clear is what every single person on that debate stage next week has fought for civil rights, has fought for voting rights, has fought for diversity. And I don't think that you can say the same of this president. Just earlier this week was Donald Trump's relaunch of his campaign. And he had white supremacists at his rally. And yet you don't hear him, you don't hear Ronna Romney McDaniel, you don't hear Republicans denouncing them. So the contrast is really clear between these parties.
I get you. I understand where you're trying to go, but let's just bring it back to the issue at hand, all right? Joe Biden was reacting to some of his colleagues, Kamala Harris and Cory Booker, who will be on stage next week. All right. Yeah. Here is what they said yesterday when they trained their sights on him. First of all, this is Biden's original comments. All right. Joe Biden says, I was in a caucus with James O. Eastland. He never called me boy. He always called me son. He was also talking about Herman Talmadge. He goes on to say, we did not agree on much of anything. We got things done. But today you look at the other side and you're the enemy, not the opposition. The enemy. We don't talk to each other anymore. Now Booker and Harris went at him the following way as they trained their sights on Biden. Watch.
Somebody running for president of the United States, somebody running to be the leader of our party, should know that using the word boy in the way he did can cause hurt and pain.
To coddle the reputations of segregationists, of people who, if they had their way, I would literally not be standing here as a member of the United States Senate, is, I think, it's misinformed.
You know, Sochi, that's pretty clear, using the words like coddle. How far left will his Democratic rivals drive him or drag him in this primary season?
Well, I don't even think it's about how far left will his colleagues drive him. I think this is going to be answering to the voters, and voters have questions of all of our candidates, and so every candidate will have to answer directly about how they're going to help them. And whoever has the best ideas, whoever has the best plans for the American people will come out of our Democratic nomination. It's going to be a very long year. I think that we have 12 debates happening.
He already versed his position on abortion with the Hyde Amendment. It comes back to the issue. How far left are they going to take him?
Well, and I think that is up to him, and that is going to be a decision that he is making in terms of his policies and his stances and where he's going to go with that. But I think that what's going to be really interesting is the debate stage next week, where you're going to have people talking about the issues. We're going to have candidates not only answering questions about their plans, but they might have questions about each other's plans. And so you'll have 2 consecutive nights, and you'll have these campaigns responding directly to whoever on various nights.
Does the DNC have a position on the reparations hearing that happened yesterday?
I think the DNC believes that these conversations should continue to happen. And these are conversations not only within our party, but within our country. And we believe that civil rights is a strength of America. And so I think that that is a conversation Democrats are willing to have, while Republicans, for some reason, run scared.
Got it. But I didn't hear a yes or no. Do you have a policy yet as to whether or not you support it?
We support the conversation, absolutely.
Only the conversation, but not the actual payment.
Again, we want to make sure that we're having these conversations within our primary.
All right, here's Burgess Owens. He was on in front of this committee yesterday in the House, and he's very much against it. Here's his position. Watch.
How about the Democratic Party pay for all the misery brought to my race? And those, after we learn our history, decide to stay there, they should pay also. They're complicit. And every white American, Republican or Democrat, that feels guilty because of your white skin, you should need to pony up also.
Want to react to that?
Well, I think, going back to what I have said before, I think the Democratic Party here isn't the problem. The Democratic Party believes diversity is our greatest strength. We believe that we must have these important conversations about race in our party. But you have a Republican Party who's not doing that. And I think that that is extremely troubling. And Donald Trump is up for re-election. Voters should be asking him these questions.
What Owens was arguing is that this is another form of welfare, and he was actually offended by it.
Well, again, I think that we should be having these conversations within our party. And we have a debate next week where I think a lot of these questions will be asked of our candidates right now. And I think that, there are some serious issues that are being raised, not only in this hearing, but around the country. And those should happen. We should talk to them at the debate stage.
As a party, would you take a position on this?
There is going to be a process when we have our Democratic nominee, and actually a little bit before that, where we will have a platform process where we're going to discuss a whole range of issues, not from the economy to health care. And that is a process that takes several weeks, and we will discuss exactly where the Democratic Party stands on a number of issues.
It will be considered then. That's what I hear from that answer. Is that right? I've got to run.
A number of issues will be considered during the platform process, and we bring in a lot of stakeholders, unlike the Republican Party.